Everyone is here.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm coming.
Yeah, you are here. You're present. Hi, everyone. Apologies. So hi, everyone. Today we are beginning with the sessions that involve the Faculty of Law at IBU. These involve the departments of political sciences as well as the legal studies department. So in the first session, we are going to listen to two presentations for the political sciences department. And for that purpose, I will invite Professor Kira Sharlamanov to have a welcome speech.
Thanks. So first of all, I'm glad to address to this very respected audience. I'm just going to tell few sentences, and I'm going to give floor to our participants for today. First of all, of course, I would like to thank to our guests that are going to make presentation today, but also to all other guests at the university and also to International Relations Office that is organizing this event. That is extremely important event for the International Balkan University, because actually it is giving opportunity and all the activities, not just this event of the International Relations Office, because it is giving opportunity to university basically to exchange knowledges with the universities that are working abroad, with academicians especially that are coming from those universities, but not just with them, also with students and with administrative staff. So in this way it is giving opportunity to academicians actually to broaden their viewpoints, their academic perspectives, so to be able to exchange their opinions regarding different topics, to establish cooperation. So for the end, in this way, of course, it is increasing quality of the academic staff, of the academicians in our university, but also it is giving to us that kind of opportunity to cooperate and to contribute also to some kind of scientific community. So that is actually for this reason extremely important. And International Relations Office is one, I think, of the most active, most dynamic units that we have in International Balkan University. That what we are having today, it is two presentations in the field of political science, and those topics that we have today that we are going to be able to listen are extremely also important for political science. One of the topic, it is urban policy, if I find it well, if I read well, and another is political history of the Balkans. So both topics, if you're going to look especially both of them, but I'm going to tell just few words for both topics, and I'm going to give floor to our presenters for today. Urban policy, it is something that is that maybe in some cases underrated, but I think that is something that is a key for political science, for politicologists to understand urban policy, because it is related with many extremely significant processes that are happening, and of course how we are constructing policies. It is related with the broader also processes that we have in the society, so distribution of population in the space, but not just with that. It is related with educational policy, with social movements, structuring of the social movements, with healthcare policy. So there is many things that are coming together when we're speaking about urban policy, and for this reason it is something that is core, and of course it needs to be given more significance. And I hope that presentation that we are going to have opportunity to listen today, actually it is going to give us that sense of the importance of the urban policy. Second topic, it is about political history of the Balkans, also one topic that actually a lot of people are writing about, and especially they are trying to connect on one side politics, on another side history, and mostly if you're going to look, you have politicologists and historians that are speaking about history of the collective subjects, but also not just subjects, specific type of the political units as national states, but also other type of the organization of the society, including here international organizations. So it is important to know what kind of processes do we have inside in the institutions and how they are reflected, and through history what kind of processes do we have. So for this reason, but I'm also very interested about something else and something new in the history, and I hope somehow it is going to be connected. It is a little bit broader picture, and it is history of the lifestyles, and you know that not the entire history to be just, you know, that attached with the collective identities and with the institutions, to be more, let's say, directed towards civil society, and to see what kind of reflection civil society it has through history over political processes. So for this reason, those both presentations, I would like to listen them, and I am going to listen them, and I hope that it is going to cause interest from the audience, some kind of debate, of discussion, and of course it is going, you know, that another thing that is, those are topics that we have, but I would like to say just a few more words. I would encourage academicians that are here to establish cooperation. That can help them actually after that to develop their careers, to do some projects together, maybe some books, maybe some articles to be written. So I think that that kind of opportunities when people are meeting with each other, actually they need to be used. So I'm going to give now floor to the presenters that we have for today. Thanks to everyone, and I wish to our presenters to present in the best possible way their topics, and after that I hope that there will be some debate, some discussion about it. Thanks.
You so much. So without further ado, we will invite Dr. Ülke Evrem Uysal from Beykent University to present city branding. Is it a contradictory urban policy or not?
We'll see.
We'll see. A round of applause to encourage everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to change it myself, right?
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Hello again. In the morning I was trying to present my university. Now I'm talking about my own research interests. My name is Ülke Evrem Uysal. I'm from the Department of Political Science. I'm coming from Istanbul, Turkey. And I work at the Beykent University for about 7 years. And today I'm going to talk about city branding, and I'm not sure if you are familiar with this topic. I will try to explain what it is, but I'm sure our esteemed colleague from Lithuania, perhaps because this is related to tourism somehow,
yes,
about the images of cities, and probably he has also deeper knowledge about this topic. And as you said, is it a contradictory policy or not? So as a political scientist, I will try to be critical to this fashionable concept. So I'm going to first describe what it is and what sort of elements that are included in city branding with examples. And I'm going to then ask the question, why do cities pursue such a branding policy? And then I will try to point out 5 major problems of city branding, and most of the data will come from my previous researches on my postdoctorate studies. I was working on Northern European cities, especially on the Baltic region, and I examined their policies one by one, and I'm going to share a few examples from the world cities, and then I will conclude with critical evaluation, and hopefully I will receive comments and questions from you. So let's get started with the question, what is city branding? City branding, as the name suggests, is a concept coming from essentially from marketing as a discipline, because the brand itself, as you know, is a promotion of a product or a service. And usually when we see brand, we associate it in our minds with products, something to be sold, something to be bought, and a strategy imported from the commercial world. And so far, many cities in the world, I'm sure Skopje is one of them also, to create a brand to attract investors, visitors, and tourists in particular. And it is a marketing tool that is designed, so it's something made, it's an artificial product brand, and to establish a...
I apologize, no, continue.
Okay, thank you.
Just to explain, the CESI school will have like a presentation B301 and they need the USB for the presentation.
Oh, no problem. No problem. So it's a marketing tool, as I said, try to establish a competitive advantage, an edge over the cities, because what we know in the global world, cities are competing to each other to attract visitors, investment in general. And this is a race that we probably don't pay attention, but in terms of companies and peoples and individuals also, there is a wide variety of selection. So even when you try to travel somewhere, you ask yourself where to go, and you make a quick research about your limited time as a tourist. So therefore, a brand plays an important role to understand for you to what kind of choices that you have in particular city. And it's an urban policy, more importantly, because it was made by professionals in municipalities mostly, and sometimes professional agencies. And it is used to mold and modify, to change and create people's perceptions. And thanks to city brands, we remember cities deeply, and we have an even idea about the cities that we have never visited. A typical city branding strategy includes these type of elements: a talented group of experts who generally are expected to have a deep knowledge about the city and its assets and its potentials in terms of, again, visitors, investors, and tourists in general. A comprehensive research on city branding strategies worldwide. This brand making strategy generally goes with academia and also researchers and experts. A prepared industry, a well-organized agency which is responsible for producing and distributing branding materials. These materials are usually promotional movies, brochures, or advertisements, or sometimes slogans about the cities. And adequate funding and sufficient researchers. Of course, nothing is done without enough money and funding. So this takes also not individual efforts, but also material resources. Another question: why do cities follow such a branding policy? Why they create brands? Well, first of all, there is a competition among the cities, as I already mentioned, and because of the industrialization. Because the cities are now no longer the places of production, but they are instead places of consumption. Especially in Europe, even I think I observed it here, the factories, productive facilities, or other facilities of industry are genuinely removed from the city centers to the urban periphery, to the faraway neighborhoods. And the city center remains to be a place to be visited by people. And this applies to almost all cities in Europe if they have a position in the tourism industry. And therefore, the cities now are needing new strategies of development. So, for example, tourism emerges as a new industry instead of producing things. Culture emerges as an industry. Sports, as now you're aware that there is a World Cup going on, so I hope I will not miss the game of Germany. This is a sports industry also going on in the cities, especially in the city centers. And cities, they seek to market and represent themselves as centers of not production, but centers of creativity, innovation, and culture, in the belief that this will give them a competitive advantage over the others. And cities tend to exploit, which in a good way, in a good meaning, their local and distinctive assets. And sometimes these are very abstract concepts. For example, talking about this city is using its multicultural history, or the Balkan heritage, the cultural heritage for tourism promotion and for promotion of investment. Architecture, as you would already guess, plays an important role because this is a physical heritage and easily promoted to the relevant audiences. And these are done, of course, to attract people and investments. And usually the aims and expectations, which I will skip a little bit quickly, creating the conditions for a competitive urban economy, attracting inbound investments, and promoting creativity, innovation, and productivity. These are the general rules of branding. And transforming the built environment through urban regeneration. Basically, the more tourists visit a city, the more visitors visit a city, the more chances of urban regeneration is created. Promoting and conserving the urban cultural heritage. And so far, the cities are conserving their physical environments. Boosting civic pride and improving urban identity. And finally, fostering urban tourism and enhancing tourism potentials of cities can be considered as the objectives of city branding. So, what is wrong about these good things that I have been telling? Well, it seems everything looks nice and pleasant when we talk about these improving conditions. But on the other hand, according to my own research and many other studies by esteemed scholars, I have spotted 5 major problems of city branding, and I'm going to talk about them one by one. So let's start with the nature of city brands. Well, as I already said, brand is a commercial concept. It is easy to brand a bottle of water. I can see a brand here. There is a logo, and it is related with water because it's written natural mineral water, and there's a picture of a mountain, which is very proper when you want to buy some bottle of water. You would like to see this picture, not something else, I guess. So it's easy. So the product is very easy, and the brand is, again, very proper. But what about a city? Cities are not products. At least cities are very complex entities with many layers, with many segments. And I'm sure everyone has a different idea about a city in their minds. And can cities be marketed just like products? This is a question still not answered properly in the literature. Can the complexity of a city be represented by a single brand, under a single simple brand? And that's also a question we must ask ourselves. And can a city brand cover and reflect complicated urban facts like social tensions, ethnic tensions, gentrification, urban regeneration, social problems occurring in the cities? Can we see that in a brand, under a brand? Usually not. I will give more examples. Some cities are more equal than others, paraphrasing George Orwell. So some cities are, let's say, more advantageous than others. This is the unequal competition between cities. Do some cities stick in mind more than others? Well, everybody knows Paris. Even if you haven't visited that, it is one of the well-known cities in the world. Everybody knows New York, but I'm not sure everybody knows, let's say, the capital of India, or Klaipeda, maybe, if you excuse me. So, this is about the idea of remembrance, and this is the very essence of city branding. So, some cities actually need branding strategies, but some don't. Why do you pursue a branding strategy for London. But you don't have to brand it at all because the city brands itself. So there is a kind of a contradiction. And is it equally easy to brand all the cities? Some of the cities are very difficult to brand. But some are very successful in rebranding. I will give some examples. For example, Manchester, it was one of the earliest industrial cities in the world. And you can't brand a city with industry. It's not really pleasant. It's not attractive to people. You can't say, the city is full of factories, full of smoke, come and visit. It's not really so attractive. And Manchester is not an industrial city anymore, so they use Manchester City and Manchester United, which is more clever. The same applies to Liverpool. They talk about Biddles, not the docks, not the harbour, not the industrial landscape. So this is kind of an example of a successful rebranding. But it's not always easy to brand the city. How can you brand a city when there is a war and conflict? How can you brand a city when the city is divided itself already? So there are many political difficulties. And here as an example from New York, well, I have never been in New York yet. My brother moved in New York 2 years ago, and he asked me about the neighborhood where to move. And I gave him good advice, because I know the city by heart. How is it possible? A city that I have never visited. So it is possible, just by watching television. And this is a map showing you the TV series shot in New York, the most popular urban destination in the world, at least in terms of culture. And here you see the neighborhoods: Brooklyn, Bronx, Harlem, Manhattan, 51st Street, and all these places. People somehow, they memorize it, they know it by heart, even without visiting. It's just like the Eiffel Tower symbol. It's in your mind. If you haven't seen it, you still have the vision in your mind. So this works in a way. The lack of harmony between cities and their brands. I think this is a very serious problem. Because, again, when we talk about branding, this must be a water, if it is written water here. But on the other hand, if you're talking about a city of peace, and if there are tensions of ethnic conflicts or other things in a city, that's basically lying. That's basically deceiving people. And when there is a lack of harmony, and we understand that these questions arise automatically. Do perceived and projected images of cities, do they always match? Do they always fit to each other? That's a good question. Are perceptions of locals and visitors always similar? I think this is a very relevant question, I think in terms of tourism studies as well. Can they be different or even contradictory? So another map from London. I like such kind of strange maps. This is pictures taken by tourists on the red color. And you will see mostly the central locations of London. But on the other hand, locals prefer pictures somewhere else. So this is just one example to understand that locals and tourists, they have different interests of sightseeing in London. And this works for lots of things. I think we also tourists, as tourists here, try to find the local areas of culture. For me, okay, I walk in the city center for a while here yesterday and the day before, but then as a researcher, I went to the outskirts on food. I would like to see more local things. That's the kind of an instinct of a researcher, and this applies to food, culture, and other things for each of us. But if you want to, as a tourist, in the circle of your security, this is always possible. But on the other hand, we know that locals and visitors, they have different needs and they have naturally different perceptions. And also the originality of city brands. Well, a brand should be original. Well, I don't want to advertise, but there is one Coca-Cola, right? The others are not Coca-Cola. They can be cause, but there is only one brand. And this is protected by the patent laws and the Even the customers know that. So they don't buy fake products. The cities, for them, the originality of city brands is here a matter of question. Because different cities might use similar slogans and logos. And totally diverse cities, geographically or culturally, they might adopt similar branding strategies. And what makes the difference, for example? This is a logo of New York, a very famous picture usually printed on the t-shirts. This is a logo of Shanghai, a very nice Chinese version of loving a city. Well, obviously, these kind of examples can be found also in other cities, like the slogans like I Amsterdam, for example. It was I love New York. This is somehow sounds similar. And they are imitating each other because there is no, let's say, there is no copyright in such city logos. What about the themes and cities? I have been analyzing the branding strategies of Helsinki and Istanbul for a long time, and I was surprised to see that two different cities, they share so little in terms of history, in terms of geographical location, in terms of culture, whatever you name it. They use the same slogan, same thematic, let's say, content, the city between the East and the West. Well, for Turkey, the West is Europe, but for Helsinki also it's Europe, when you look at that. But for Turkey, the East is something else. But for Helsinki, the East is Russia. So there is also a different understanding of these sub-themes. The city of peace can be found in Jerusalem, and Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, and Hiroshima, because of the well-known event, the nuclear bomb. The creative city was used by Turin or Torino in Italy, Glasgow and Seoul, and the city of law, Paris, Venice, and recently Bruges is adopting this slogan. So which one is city of law? I don't know. Maybe all, maybe not. But the point is, whenever they use this slogan so often, this is kind of, let's say, less convincing when you see these slogans more with different cities. And finally, I think I forgot to add one chapter here that I can tell it to you with the brief sentences. Participation is a problem also. We should ask the question, who is branding? So who is creating this brand? There is a brand for Istanbul, there's a brand policy, but I don't remember they asked me about the content as a citizen. So there is no, in most cases, there is no or little participation by the locals. And of course, it's a problem of politics as well. So as a conclusion, I hope I don't exceed my time. The city branding has become an acknowledged urban policy, and everywhere you can see that. City branding policies have created expectations in the city for better promotion and recognition. However, these expectations might lead to negligence of several urban issues. The analysis of branding processes in several cities and the extensive relevant literature has revealed 5 major problems. And these problems, on the other hand, can represent that that can be a difference between the branding policy and the reality and the facts within the city. And what we all know that cities are not equal in terms of branding. And also, these images in the locals' and the visitors' mind might differ, as the external and internal images of cities can be different. And also perceived and projected images can be also different, which eventually decreases the reliability of a particular city brand. City brands are expected to be original, just like brands, but sometimes they're not. They are sometimes copy of each other, and we see the repetitive use of similar phrases. And even geographically diverse cities with different historical, different cultural stories might even adopt similar looking branding strategies. And therefore, my question about contradiction is a city branding is a contradictory urban policy. Is there a contradiction in that? Well, to me, it seems yes, by all means. Finally, how we can solve this problem between the facts and promotion. Probably, I must suggest some framework for further research. Further studies should pay attention to these issues about making a brand strategy. Problems concerning harmony, participation, and originality, I found it very serious problems to be solved. And I believe there is no fixed recipe for a city. Every city should find its own way to promote itself. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. If you spend a lot of money and labor on branding policy with many experts, with many projects, then it's a waste of time if you don't pay attention. And we should also know that cities are different. One success in a branding policy, it doesn't mean that another will be successful. It could be a failure story for the other city. Well, thank you for your attention. Did I make it on time? A little bit more? All right, sorry. Thank you. Okay, I'll be very happy to receive your questions.
Yeah, I have a question, please. I was
Really?
Oh, now or later?
Yeah, no.
Now, okay. Who's first?
No, you are guess.
Yeah, I was actually intrigued by the fact that Jerusalem was branded with peace.
Yeah.
It is the center of conflict in the Middle East.
Yes.
So how is this possible?
It's not. It's,
Yeah, John, you hear? Why Phnom Penh is city of peace? It's the same question.
sorry.
Why Phnom Penh, city of peace?
This is probably because of the Buddhist understanding of peace, you know. But it's also a problem of, conflict. We know
It's Jerusalem.
yeah.
That's why I asked.
When we look at the past in Cambodia, the massacre, the genocide of Cambodia happened here, but it was branded as a city of peace. And your question, yeah, it's a city of conflict, actually.
It is actually the center of conflict in the Middle East.
Yes. And somehow they wanted to, to emphasize the possibility of peace, probably, because these brands are the ideal perceptions. They are not facts. That's kind of a contradiction. That's what I'm talking about.
Like deceiving or whatever, like.
Yeah, I
Is
use
this
that
some
word.
kind
Yes,
of-
I accept that. Yeah, deceiving. I said even lying for once or twice. But if it's marketing, I think this is somehow
Acceptable?
no, not at all. But included.
Yeah.
Yeah, not at all.
This is when you order peace from Alibaba.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was really interesting for
Thank
me.
you.
But let me ask you this question. As a researcher,
Okay.
do you have at least one example of successful city branding that could match the criteria that you told us, originality and harmony between the visitors and the locals? At least one. Or
Very
none?
difficult. So you are talking about if there is a perfect city brand or not.
More or less. Nothing
more or
is
less.
perfect.
Close to
Give me an
perfect
example.
seems to be the very first one. New York, the very first branding campaign, the Big Apple campaign, was held in 1970s because New York was a city of crime. New York was a city of poverty, but also a city of insecurity, and without any investment. And they solved this problem through participation, through investment, through successful branding logos that we're still using that. The Big Apple campaign, we still use this logo, I love New York, which is older than me. So it seems to be working. But for perfectly successful branding campaign, I'm not sure. I think it's not that possible. There would be always a problem.
But that doesn't mean that we should get up, let's say, not go on branding?
No, it doesn't mean like that. No, I'm not against branding. I just
That
want to
you
be
should
critical.
Give up branding.
Yeah, I think being critical is also being also on that side to make things improve.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A brief comment, if I may.
Yes, please, thank you.
I'm coming from Slovenia, Milan Jazbec. City of Love. If you would add another category, but it's out of your city branding scope, the country of love, Slovenia.
Ljubljana.
But yeah, okay, Ljubljana, but yeah, this is Ljubljana also means Ljubljana, loving.
Yeah, love.
But you know, I'm now speaking about a more, let's say, direct visual combination of this branding. As far as I know, Slovenia is the only country in the world that has love in it. Slovenia, so country of love, Slovenia. So this was, you know, a slogan in the beginning of 90s, with which we promoted independent Slovenia. I feel Slovenia, I feel love. Feel and love was in italic. So, I mean, just telling you this as an example of brand, and you would be able to tell me or us or whatever, is it a good idea or not? But I think it's extremely good and it's rare. I didn't find any other country in the world with this word love in it. I have two other examples, but they are not for public, because I will tell you later.
So, about you're talking about a little bit something different as because this is country branding.
Yeah.
And nation branding is a more complicated issue because it involves politics, public diplomacy, and more things. For cities, it seems to be simple comparing to the nation branding. But I think you're right. Did it work? I think you could have an answer with that. If it works, it seems to be a successful branding. If people remember it, and if it worked in the meaning of attracting people and visitors or investors, and that it's a good brand, we can say that.
But also with the city branding, you can speak about public diplomacy, because cities are not, city diplomacy is a category
Yes.
that's, you know, being more and more popular because huge cities, 5, 6, 7, 10 million, 20 million, you know,
Yes.
they are de facto diplomatic subject, although they are not legal.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yes, but nation branding seems to be more complicated,
Yeah, yes.
I guess, because more factors involved in, and this is also not my subject, I should be silent about that anyway. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Professor Ülke Ünsal. Yeah, Ünsal. Thank you so much for this topic, which sparked like a lot of debate. I think, I'm not sure if that has something, like partially I think it has to do with your topic, and partially that we are surrounded by politicians now, and they all have to like discuss and talk about it. But thank you so much like for the presentation. Next we have Dr. Ali Erken from Marmara University with a topic on political history, the Balkans and Turkey. A round of applause is always recommended to encourage people. Thank you so much. Just give me a moment. Yeah. Okay. So do you have everything that you need on the USB?
Couple of
Yeah.
pictures and that's it.
And those are yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The floor is yours. Let me know if you need like the microphone like moved a little.
No,
Or you could take it.
No need. That's
Okay.
fine. Yes, a very brief summary of political history in the 20th century, Balkans and Turkey. Of course, it's a huge topic. Just I would like to speak on 4 or 5 issues that can be summarized, and then can hear your questions or comments. I just wanted to share some maps. Firstly, this is the first one, the late Ottoman period, the late Ottoman borders in 1912, before the Balkan Wars, or even before the...
Because of the live stream, I'm very sorry. Yeah.
Or even before the 1933 war, maybe. So after the war, we see the shrinking boundaries of the Ottomans. The Ottomans lost all the Balkan lands beyond Edirne, and then a huge wave of migration started, and states were founded. So basically, Turkey and the Balkans, what we saw between these countries as political issue, the first topic was migration, of course, migration. After 1912, we see a couple of waves of migration to Turkey, and then some political alliance. The first case of migration, just after the foundation of Republic, came with the Greek population exchange. As many of you know, nearly 1 million people exchanged their lands. They went to Greece. Those people living in Anatolia, they came to today's Greece. So we see roughly, yes, 1 million people exchange their lands. After the settlement, the wave of population movements continued, and we see 1935, 1938, 1930s, again another wave of migration from Yugoslavia, Kingdom of Yugoslavia, to Turkey. So 1923 and 1938, we see waves of, or a couple of waves of migration to Turkey from the Balkans. How this happened? Of course, political relations are friendly, we can say, because I will show the alliance just during the time of Atatürk. We saw the Balkan Entente, Turkey, Greece, Yugoslavia, and Romania. Why Bulgaria wasn't there? It was the issues of war. After the war, Bulgarians were not quite happy. But generally, in the Balkans, there was a kind of settlement and a peace. So we see. I would like to show this. Sorry. Oh, it doesn't open. Yeah. There were this one. These are very nice. Entente Balkanic, Romania, Greece, and Yugoslavia. So basically, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, and Greece, and Turkey, 3 actors or 4 actors, we can say. Of course, the World War II changed the scene. It changed everything. So after the war, 1945, we see the coming of communism to Yugoslavia, to Bulgaria, and Greece and Turkey remained in the other side. The others remained in the other side. But interestingly, Turkey maintained good relations with Yugoslavia during the early years of Tito, and we see Tito's visit to Turkey in 1954. Now I would like to open the videos that we have some video. How can I open?
Edge or Chrome? You could close both and just like do a regular search. Give me one.
YouTube.
Yeah.
That was an interesting visit. (1954). It's a long video, but I will just share some scenes again. Yugoslavia was still part of a socialist bloc, but it came closer to Turkey during the early years of Menderes government, and that's why Tito came, and he got a very friendly reception in Ankara.
You could put it on full screen.
Yes, surely. So, very, very friendly. And in 1953, I think just a year before then, another alliance was established, the Balkan Pact. Yugoslavia, Turkey, and Greece. However, just 2 or 3 years after these visits, politically they didn't, let's say, get along with well, and Yugoslavia rather moved to non-alignment movement, and Turkey stayed in the NATO side. So they didn't deepen the relations. And furthermore, they had some critical comments to each other, against each other, the Yugoslavian government and the Turkish government. Here we see the foreign minister, prime minister, I think, Celal Bayar, all of them are around. And another interesting thing happened. What was it? Celal Bayar went to Yugoslavia. It's quite important because it is the first time. Also, he is the third president, but he became the first president to visit Yugoslavia in 1934, I think. And I think he visited Slovenia also.
Which year again?
4 or 3.
19...
1954 or 1953, I will show.
Oh, okay.
He came to Macedonia, Belgrade, and Slovenia, I think. These are, again, interesting documents. Now I will show Bayar's visit. It's shorter.
In 1954.
54, had
Yeah.
the same year. The same.
Actually, the New York Times had written about it. That's how big of a deal it was.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
a communist state, a
Yeah.
NATO state.
Yeah,
When exactly in 54?
1954.
Which month?
Im Zeichen des
1st of
Balkanpaktes
September. The New York Times wrote an
stand der
article
Besuch
about
des
it.
türkischen Staatspräsidenten Celal Bayar in Jugoslawien. Marschall Tito empfing seinen Gast auf dem Bahnhof von Belgrad. Bei der Fahrt durch die Stadt brachte die Bevölkerung dem Präsidenten stürmische Ovationen dar. Tags zuvor war Bayar im Hafen von Rijeka mit Salutschüssen empfangen worden.
What was interesting, after this date, relations, let's say, freezed. Nothing happened after them. Things got worse. Politically, they didn't make any further agreement. They didn't make any other alliance, and that was it until the end of Tito's government, 1980, let's say, because Tito was expecting Turkey to join non-alignment movement. Yeah, he was hopeful, but the Turkish government was more or less, let's say, they were relying on American support, so they didn't leave American help, let's say, or aid. So there were kind of invitations, declined invitations, and Tito said, okay, you are your own, I'm going. And what happened? The migration then fastened. So after 54, we see people in Yugoslavia started to migrate to Turkey again. Of course, there are Turkish documents that maybe I can show, but it is not understandable. But what we know after 54, especially from Kosovo and Macedonia, migrations increased. So the story with Turkey and Yugoslavia until 1980, just in a brief, let's say, sense, it was it. But after 1980, of course, things have changed. Tito died. there was a coup d'etat in Turkey, and after 1989, the communism fell, and things went in a totally different direction, and it's not a part of history, and it's today's issue, so I didn't want to go after 1989. That's it. What happened with, I would like to share another document, if I can open. Maybe it's a historical document signed with Yugoslavia. It was in my case, Sheba, I couldn't find it. Anyway.
Maybe you need to specify to Turkey, because Albanian migration.
Evet.
Yeah. You could be
That was it. There's a document, 1938, signed with Turkey, with the Yugoslavian government, Kingdom of Yugoslavia, outlining the conditions of migrations here, regulating the immigration of Turkish population. Yes, that was it. In the document, we see lots of articles explaining how people will migrate, families, the number of families and the things. It's a long document. Just I would like to show. It was signed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, and the Yugoslavian minister, but it couldn't be implemented because of the war. And Atatürk was there; he died. So this agreement.
But there were a lot of Albanians who actually did fight, like in the Çanakkale War.
Yes, but later. This is
Okay.
38.
Oh, okay.
This is 38. Roughly 20 years. Part of a story. What happened with with Bulgaria? Mainly similar things, because migrations was the case again, especially 1950. But the relations with Bulgaria, it was tougher because Bulgarians were rather under the Soviet impact. So it wasn't like Tito. What happened in 1950, especially after the Korean War, the tension increased, and the Bulgarian government decided to send the minority, the Turkish Muslim minority, to Turkey, and roughly again 300,000 people maybe came to Turkey after 1950. But relations was never like the relations with Yugoslavia. So always there was a tension with the Bulgarian authorities. And this tension came again after 1988, 89, these migration cases. Finally, just I don't want to take your time, the relations with Greece. It's actually, I don't think it's a part of Balkan politics, it's rather a general politics. But we know that Turkey and Greece have made this agreement of exchange. It was fine. They made the Balkan Pact. It was okay. They made this Balkan alliance. Again, they were together. However, they could never become really friends. Many of you know. After entering the NATO, 1951, the crisis erupted. The crisis on Cyprus, of course, Cyprus case, especially in 1953-54, and that was one of the reasons of the failure of Balkan allies, because Greece was saying it was ours, Turkey was saying no. So after 1954, especially, the relations with Greece deteriorated, and it never became friendly relations. Unfortunately, 1974, the operation took place, and then periodically the tension, let's say, arose or erupted. Finally, just what I can say, there is not a Turkish-Balkan relations. We have to distinguish country by country, case by case, because sometimes Turkey had really good relations with Yugoslavia, sometimes Turkey had good relations with Bulgaria, especially even Bulgarians were not a part of this alliance. The governments had a very good relations in the 1920s. But in certain periods, there were real tensions, up and downs, with the country-based, let's say, relations. I don't want to take your time any longer. If you have any question or add anything, we can maybe speculate. Speculate on it.
Well, you have 3 more minutes from your original presentation, so it's okay, you're perfect on time.
Yani,
I...
documents are interesting.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to share actually. And there are some other things, but we have running of time.
You said that the history, like after like 89, counts as modern times. It does not count as history.
Yani, we can, but if we go into that,
Yeah, we're gonna
after
have another discussion.
after 1980, it's a big story.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Maybe I should just add a sentence to this different story. I think it was 6th of February. It was February 92. I think it was 6th of February 92, when, so 30 years ago, 30 something years ago, when Turkey recognized Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Slovenia, Macedonia. This was at that time, at least for us in Slovenia, a surprise. We didn't expect it that much, that early. We expected it later, during the course of the year, but it came rather early, because I was told later by Turkish politicians, because with this fact, Turkey wanted to support Bosnia and prevent the war there.
Yeah.
So, and that's why they decided to do this package, all 4 countries, because the rest was Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, so they wanted to, with this political diplomatic gesture, to show support. Of course, it didn't work, but it is interesting that, let's say, 12 years after Tito's death, to say so, relations between these, what were new countries on the territory of former Yugoslavia and Turkey, started with a high positive gesture from Turkey's side. I think it's an interesting historical point, how should I say?
And really, you know much better, maybe you remember the history.
Well, he was like the ambassador of Slovenia to Macedonia, so he has to.
Relations never bad. I don't remember any real tension with Slovenia, Croatia. So regardless of governments, so lots of governments came, but it doesn't change. That's interesting. So I don't want to go into today, but people are talking about today's politics. If you look at history, generally there is a kind of trend, stability in foreign politics with the Balkans. You were saying something.
Earlier, but it doesn't matter. Does anyone have any other questions? It seems not. Thank you so much to Professor Ali.
Just a brief.
Yeah, we appreciate that as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Professor Ali once more. Before we begin with the panel on legal studies, I invite you for a short coffee break to re-energize ourselves, after which we'll come back in about 10 minutes or so.
Kısaca bitirdik işimizi ya.